Hey, you are listening to What the Sigma with Chad Stacks. Today on the show, Nvidia commits to dropping a massive $100 billion, while legendary investor Michael Burry is betting against them. Talk about a clash of titans. So here's the thing about Nvidia that nobody wants to say out loud. When you need a leaked internal memo to explain why you're not Enron, you've already lost the narrative. The memo landed last week. Aggressive, defensive, the kind of document that gets written when the whispers get too loud to ignore. We are not Enron, it said. Our reporting is complete and transparent. We don't use special purpose entities to hide debt, which is technically true. But here's what I've learned watching companies implode. The best frauds never look like the last fraud. They rhyme. They don't repeat. Nvidia is worth $5 trillion. Let that number sit for a second. 5 trillion. They got there by becoming the arms dealer of the AI gold rush, manufacturing the specialized chips that power everything from ChatGPT to whatever dystopian surveillance state Saudi Arabia is building. And now they're doing something that should make anyone who remembers the dot-com crash deeply, profoundly uncomfortable. They're financing their own demand. Here's how it works, and I want you to really hear this because it's beautiful in its circularity. Nvidia pledges $100 billion to OpenAI over 10 years. Most of that money, stay with me here, goes to buying Nvidia chips. Nvidia invests $10 billion into Anthropic. Anthropic turns around and invests $30 billion into Microsoft's Azure platform, which runs on, you guessed it, Nvidia chips. $2 billion into a special purpose vehicle linked to Elon Musk's xAI, money earmarked for, say it with me, Nvidia chips. It's not fraud, it's not Enron, but it's something. The technical term is vendor financing, and if you're old enough to remember Lucent Technologies or the telecom bubble, those words should trigger your fight or flight response. James Anderson, renowned tech investor, self-described huge admirer of Nvidia, put it perfectly. The words vendor financing do not carry nice reflections to somebody of my age. It's not quite like what many of the telecom suppliers were up to in '99 and 2000, but it has certain rhymes to it. Certain rhymes. That's the phrase that's been rattling around my head. Because here's the thing about rhymes. Cisco. Remember Cisco? Between '95 and 2000, their stock surged 3,800%. They became the most valuable company on Earth at $560 billion. The picks and shovels of the internet revolution. Then they crashed more than 80%, and most investors never recovered. Michael Burry, yes, that Michael Burry, the guy who shorted the housing market and made it look easy in a movie, just dropped $1 billion in put options on Nvidia. Then he published a post titled, "The Cardinal Sign of a Bubble, Supply-Side Gluttony." And in it, he wrote, "And once again there is a Cisco at the center of it all, with the picks and shovels for all, and the expansive vision to go with it. Its name is Nvidia." Now, Burry is a complicated character. He's brilliant, contrarian, and sometimes catastrophically wrong. But he's also the kind of investor who reads footnotes for fun, and when he starts drawing historical parallels, you pay attention. He's not saying Nvidia is committing fraud. He's saying something potentially worse, that the entire infrastructure build-out might be ahead of actual demand, that we're building data centers before we know if anyone will profitably use them. The bull case, and it's not nothing, is that Jensen Huang is actually right, that we're at the beginning of a complete reinvention of computing, that every data center on Earth needs to be retrofitted with AI chips, and that's a multi-year, multi-trillion-dollar opportunity. CFO Colette Kress told investors in early December they're not seeing an AI bubble, pointing to trillions in future business. The company just reported another quarter of blockbuster earnings with a 62% revenue surge. But here's where it gets murky, where the investigation gets interesting. Who's actually making money from AI?
My name is Tom Sachs. I'm an artist in New York City. For nearly 2 decades, I have been collaborating with Nike.
Nike running is for runners. Nike basketball is for basketball. Nike craft is for everyone else.
OpenAI is making a $1.4 trillion bet on computing capacity. $1.4 trillion. They've committed $22 billion to CoreWeave for data center capacity. Oracle is spending $300 billion on data centers for OpenAI, and OpenAI is paying back roughly the same amount to use those data centers. It's like an Escher painting of capital flows. And nobody, not one source I've seen, has explained how OpenAI gets profitable enough, fast enough, to service all this. The business model is, charge people $20 a month for ChatGPT while spending billions on infrastructure. The math has to math eventually, right? Charlie Dye, analyst at Forrester, nailed the actual concern. Nvidia is not hiding debt, but it is leaning heavily on vendor-financed demand, which creates exposure if AI growth slows. The concern is about sustainability, not legality. Sustainability, not legality. That's the distinction that matters. Because even if everything Nvidia is doing is above board, and I'm inclined to believe it is, the question remains, what happens if AI doesn't generate returns fast enough? If OpenAI, Anthropic, CoreWeave, and the rest can't become profitable before the capital runs out, then you get write-downs. Massive write-downs on equity stakes and unpaid receivables. And when a $5 trillion company starts taking write-downs, the ripple effects hit the entire global economy. Nvidia isn't just a chip maker anymore. It's systemically important. Too big to fail, except we haven't figured out the bailout plan yet. And here's what nobody's talking about: the government deals. Nvidia committed 260,000 Blackwell chips to South Korea, up to 600,000 chips to Saudi Arabia's government-owned AI startup. Deals with Italy, France, Germany. The terms? Undisclosed. The timing? Undisclosed. The pricing? You guessed it. When the details of your biggest deals are opaque, you don't get to claim complete transparency. You get to claim fairly transparent, which is what even the skeptics are giving them credit for. But fairly transparent is like fairly pregnant. Either you are or you aren't. CoreWeave CEO Michael Trader defended the arrangements. Companies are trying to address a violent change in supply and demand. You do that by working together, which is a very Silicon Valley way of saying, we're all in this together, and if it blows up, we all go down. But here's where Burry's framing gets interesting, and why I think he might actually be onto something, even if his timing is wrong. Folly makes money, he wrote. Creative destruction and manic folly are exactly why the U.S. is the center of innovation in the world. Companies are allowed to innovate themselves to death, and ever more spring up to do the same. Sometimes the new company is the same company on a pivot. That last line is the kicker. Sometimes the new company is the same company on a pivot. Cisco didn't die. They're still around, still profitable, still relevant. They just never got back to that $560 billion peak. The infrastructure got built, the internet happened, but the returns didn't justify the valuations, and a generation of investors learned that being right about the technology doesn't mean you're right about the stock price. So what's the takeaway here? What's the thing you need to understand as we close out this cycle and head into whatever fresh configuration awaits us?
Building a new product? Temez Labs takes you from napkin sketch to the App Store. Trusted by Fortune 500s for quality, security, and speed. Book your free strategy session at temez.ai.
It's this. Nvidia might be building the future. The AI revolution might be real. Every data center might actually need to be retrofitted with their chips. And all of that can be true while the stock is still overvalued and the financing arrangements are still unsustainable. The question isn't whether AI is transformative. The real question is whether it's transformative fast enough to justify the capital expenditures happening right now. Whether OpenAI and Anthropic can become profitable before the money runs out. Whether governments will keep buying chips they might not need for applications that might not exist yet. And if the answer is no, if we're building infrastructure ahead of demand, if we're in a Cisco moment disguised as an innovation revolution, then the memo protesting that Nvidia isn't Enron will seem quaint. Because the problem was never fraud. The problem was physics. The problem was time. And time, as they say, is the one thing you can't finance your way out of. Remember, nothing said in this podcast is financial advice. This has been another fire episode at What the Sigma. Smash that follow button and tap 5 stars to spread the butter. Fortune favors the bold, baby.
Grab news. Tamez.